I'll speak, but I spoke my piece the last time, and it got me freaking nowhere.
Possibly, they're definitely
I'm pissed as hell. Not at y'all, at this body. So, probably better not speak too loud, because the words might not be very nice. So I'm here in support, wholeheartedly, 100%. Basically, Genesis wants to have their way with the neighborhood, bottom line. And they've got people on the board to basically ensure that they get their way with it. And everybody, yeah, so, I mean, it ought to be set. That's what it is, you know, those gentlemen don't accuse themselves.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, young lady. So, yeah.
It was, we were driving all the way to Florence. It was awful.
So they're gonna basically enclose the, and build the elevator things before they do it. So.
There are two people signed up. I was just making sure the folks that came in later need to sign in.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's with you, Mary.
Is it 6:30, 6 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Very good. Get everybody's attention, we get started. Darlington City Council agenda for the special city council meeting. Today is Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022 at 6 o'clock. Everybody, tonight here for a word of prayer. I do have any Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for all this time that you've given us, and thank you for all your many blessings, to Lord. Help us to make wise decisions for the city of the Lord and everything that we say and do. Honor and glorify you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval of the meeting agenda for tonight?
I'll motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
Mr. Milling, Ms. Backus, Mrs. Reed, Mr. Seegers. Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, public hearing, Cashua Spring Historic District expansion. We're going to bring up comments first. Didn't we have a place for comments? All right, we had David DeBose.
Yes, sir. May I approach?
Come on, yes, sir.
Thank you. Does council prefer that I leave the mask on, or can you hear me well enough?
I don't hear well enough, so.
Do you mind if I?
I'll take it off.
No, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Correct. My name is David DeBose. I'm a resident of the city of Darlington. And in particular for tonight, my interest here is I'm the court-appointed personal representative for the estate of my late aunt, Irene Garner Carrigan, who's the owner of record of 126 Oak Street. So my duty, my comments today are not my personal opinion necessarily, but I have a fiduciary duty to the beneficiaries and to carry out my aunt's wishes through her will, consistent with state law. So I would make the first observation is that I went back and looked at the 2018 proceedings, all 222 pages of the minutes. And I would note that one of the main topics discussed was whether or not a homeowner could appeal a decision if they didn't want to be included in the zoning area. This is March the 6th, pages 6 and 7. At the time, the discussion was they would have to amend the city code and to do that. I don't know whether anything that was done for that matter. But then manager, Mr. Garland, said that, well, we may need to revisit this issue for city council. I don't know whether that happened, but on April the 3rd, we were back, and the manager said, we haven't looked at our city ordinance, historic preservation ordinance since 2007, 2008, and that we could have a work session to look at that. And the then mayor said that we needed to take a look at that. The council did. The proponent of the proposal at that time sought to prepare an ordinance and certified letters, and the mayor at that time said no, like another member of council suggested, we need to check on a few more things first. There was a special meeting on July the 10th, pages 9 and 10, I'm referencing to, and one of the council members said, I have no problem with the proposed overlay as long as the homeowner would be okay with that. The then mayor had a specific question, what if an owner doesn't want to participate in being included? The proponent of the measure responded, but it turned out a bit digression, so one of the other council members brought the question back, is there an opt-out provision for the homeowner? The proponent of the proposal said no, the only way to achieve is to be excluded from the ordinance in the first place. And so unfortunately, I'm before you today to ask that you do that for the residents 126 Oak Street for that property. And certainly the ownership would be in flux, it will have to be sold at some point in the near future. I think that should be a decision to be better made by the future ownership. If that itself is not persuasive enough, I would also suggest to this body that the state law that provides the authority for this council to do the overlay is broad, but is not unlimited. And this is a little bit of a quirky situation with regard to the Oak Street property, because it is an island in and of itself, a zoning island. And for whatever reason, this body or this city in the past has sought to has designated that high-density residential, where the other homes are either across the street with Oak Haven being office commercial, or the other ones along Oak Street being low-density residential. I don't know what's proper. I prepared a copy of the map drawn out. I think it would be helpful to anyone to see these. And so the point that I have is the Enabling Act that was passed by the state legislature in 1994, the South Carolina Local Government and Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act. That's found that code sections 629-310, etc. And I would point to my comments today to the 6-29-720 code section. I reviewed state Supreme Court and other appellate decisions from the state, and that section has only been addressed 9 times in my research, and it hasn't been addressed to a specific subsection that I'd like to bring to your attention, and that would be on, I guess, the last page of your handout. And I will state that I'm making this as my best good faith effort in reading this. I don't claim to be an expert in this, so this is just offering my comments. Anything you see that's in bold or enlarged, that's just for me, for my note purposes. But the overlay section, 629-720C, subsection C, subsection 5, as amended, said what is an overlay zone? It's one which imposes a set of requirements or relaxes a set of requirements imposed by the underlying zoning district when there's a special public interest in a particular geographic area. Now, if we put a period right there, then I think that you would have the authority to do what you're suggesting, I believe, with regard to the Carrigan property. But it doesn't stop there. It goes on to say that it does not coincide with the underlying zone boundaries. Now, I'd suggest to you that overlaying the entire portion of that zoning area, which just so happens to be one unit, and it is, by tax map purposes, only one number for that, it's not 3. You're swallowing the rule by, if you were to allow that to go forward. I understand it's a little bit quirky because of this situation. If you're looking on the map I prepared, it's actually a zoning map that I just, from the city that I took a portion of. The others, like the R10, you can see the gray areas, I believe, to be the current historic overlay zone. And you can see some of the R10 areas are not overlaid, so that's why I think that is possible, because you're tweaking the R10 zone when you do the overlay. But for R6, it would swallow it whole. And so I would suggest to this body that should someone, if you follow through with it, I think it's certainly subject to challenge about whether the authority would exist for that. I know, just want to comment a couple of quick other things. One is I bring to the council's attention constitutional law, particularly procedural due process. And that is a right that we get through the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment, as it's been applied to the states of incorporation. And I can cite case law from the state or from the U.S. Supreme Court, so that applies here. And the fundamental, there are a number of things that make up procedural due process, but one of them, the classic formulation, is notice and an opportunity to be heard. And I think there's a real vulnerability here. I looked at the city council website a number of times up until yesterday, and the only thing there was the wording that said that a special meeting March the 15th, 2022. There looked like a hyperlink for the agenda, but I don't think it was ever linked. Now, it is up today, but it's just a very brief description, so I don't know whether this body will comport with procedural due process, because when that applies and involves life, liberty, or property. I was ultimately able to find a brief description on the city website under the events, but that was sandwiched between a notice for a wings night at a local restaurant and pickleball. So I would suggest to this body that if you go forward with that tonight, I think that's a real vulnerability should someone want to choose to challenge what goes on here. The other part is, I don't know what the proposal is. It's not on the website that I could find. And I'm assuming that the property that I'm speaking of is included, because I haven't seen it. And I don't know that maybe others have. A couple of quick other matters. Usually a body would, every 2 years they meet anew, they start over, like for Congress or the state legislature. So I don't know what the procedure is in renewing this, whether it's gone through the proper steps, and whether it complies with the city comprehensive city plan. On the website, you show a comprehensive plan from 2005 to 2015. There is a document that says amended 2000, shows a potential amendment for 2012. There's no cover sheet to it, so it's not clear whether this body ever, or city ever adopted that. So for those reasons, I would ask, and again, this is not my personal opinion, I think the historic district, the other properties, I think would be very proper, and it could be proper here if the owner wanted that. And as legal representative for that property, I would ask you to, one, either remove it and go forward with your proposal accepting that property. And just for the record, well, I was going to give you the tax map number if you needed that. But at any rate, if you don't choose to do that, I would ask you to keep in mind that I don't think, or arguably this body doesn't have the authority on the state code to do what we propose to do with regard to that one property. Certainly I have no problem. I think it clearly authorizes you to do what is anticipated or asked of you to do with the other properties. And then finally, I would just suggest that merely a document that shows up the day before, it's titled June 19th, 2018, this document that shows what the agenda is for today. I don't understand what that is. But so I would suggest to you that there are certainly potential for issues to arise later. But I appreciate your time, and also appreciate you have tough decisions to make day in and day out, week in and week out. And I just thank you for the opportunity to stand up before you and offer my
Before you leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to be clear, our ordinance is adding in requested, residences to be included in the historic district. Am I correct on that? And you, at 126, does not want to be included in that.
That's correct.
That's what this is about. So we
Right.
need to know if that's a problem, right? Okay, I gotta be clear.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just what it means to the residents.
Right, at this time, I think in the future it could be very well received, but at this point, no, I would ask this to be removed.
That's
If it is in
that's the
fact,
property with a brick fence around it.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bose. Dr. Hobbs, Steve Hobbs?
Irene Kerrigan bought houses in the late center spot in Zinga. And, give this to y'all, it's already on the historical property records. I don't know if you've seen that. And I knew Irene personally, and, I'm next door neighbor, but, I don't think she ever wanted her house torn down to put in like a hospital or anything like that. I think half the property may be good to put a parking lot for Genesis, but, that's what she's gonna admit. I don't know if this contradicts what he's saying, but it's already on historical property. And, with all due respect, Mr. Milling, Mr. Nell, I think you'll have a conflict of interest that y'all both on the payroll of Genesis. And Genesis wants to buy the property basically to increase their property now.
Well, I appreciate your interest in my conflict of interest, but there is no contract between the Kerrigan estate and Genesis. And
Well, I have the highest regard and respect for you, sir. I was just feeling that it was like a little conflict of interest, no, fifth second. That's all.
if there was a contract, if Genesis was proposing to buy the house, Kerrigan house, and there was a contract between the parties, yes, I'd say there was a conflict. But no offer has been made to Genesis to purchase the property. I don't even know what the property has been appraised for.
Well, Irene herself said you've been over there many times to offer.
Oh, there was an offer before she died, if she wanted to sell it to make, Mrs. DeBose's situation easier, because he'd be dividing money according to her will and not dividing land or having to sell land according to her will. But that didn't work, so we don't have any ownership interest in the property. He can sell it to whomever he wants to. And I don't know whether Genesis has an interest in buying any or all of it. Just have to wait and see.
That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Oh, let me be clear what you're saying. The house at 126 Oak Street is already a historic building. Property.
No, late center spot in the scene, that was his personal house that Irene
Okay.
bought it from.
You aware that?
Yes, Councilwoman, I'm aware of that Senator Mazinga's home, but I'm not aware of what that designation is.
Well, I mean, if it's already there,
Sorry,
Well-
historical property.
yes.
What does it take?
By
What does it
what
take to get on-
designation?
Yeah,
Sorry?
that's.
What does it take to get on the historical
Point.
property record?
I don't know, I don't know who that's from.
Do you know what it?
No, I was trying to think, see if it was on any property, and we found that in records, and it was already on historical property. This is one.
You know, good answer.
I may be able to answer your question for you. So are you trying to find out how it gets on the historical?
My question is,
landmark?
can I just go out and put my name on there and say, I want my house to be on this? I mean, how easy is it to get on this?
To be on the National Register, you have to fit within a certain criteria. It's got to
But
be,
this says South Carolina Historic Properties Record, it doesn't say national.
It's, part of this is that it makes it seem like that house is already a historic property.
doesn't say national.
Oh, okay, so what this is from is actually, I recognize that, thank you. So that is from a survey that the city of Darlington, I think, commissioned back in
2002.
2002. So at that time, I think they were surveying for the Spring Cashua district, but they included that North and Oak Street area because those properties were recommended to be included in that area at the time. And I don't know why they were not, but there was some reason that they were not. So they are eligible, they were eligible at that time, and so we're moving forward with the application for the National Register, that part of it. What you're gonna be voting on tonight is merely the city part, accepting that into the city historic district. National Register, you have no control over.
May I have the record reflect the name of the speaker? I don't know who the
Rose
speaker was.
Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
All right. Mr. Clark?
Ms. Pruitt, I got just a question.
Sure.
And I apologize, my hearing is not the best in the world, so
That's
I
okay.
am not sure I heard you correctly or not. You don't know whether this property is or is not currently on any historic registry?
No, which house is that? Is that
The
on?
Kerrigan property, the old Mazingo.
Oh, right. So currently, it is not.
It is not.
It is not.
Okay, thank you.
The only house on the North and Oak Street historic area is actually the house that Miss Latham lives in. That's the only one that's currently listed up with the National Register independently, without being included in the, I guess it might be included in the city.
It's in the city's
Yeah.
district.
But that was a separate application. For instance, the Wilds Edwards house, Edwards Avenue is not in a historic district, but the Wilds Edwards house independently is.
And this Latham's house is independently?
Yes, it is independently listed on the National Registry.
And it's in the city's,
Yes, yes, sir.
so it is okay to
Yes, sir.
pick, so what is the difference between us just excluding him and going down? What would the difference be?
What is the difference, is his question.
So you're asking if the difference between the difference between what exactly?
Making the whole section a historical section, or handpicking, he doesn't wanna be in, I wanna be in, I wanna be in, let the ones that wanna be in be listed in the city of Darlington.
So even being in a historic district in Darlington, the historic districts are voluntary. Even the National Register, those are voluntary.